So we'll go ahead and call the December 29th Special Commission meeting to order. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Angel.
Here.
Commissioner Crawford.
Here.
Commissioner Householder.
Here.
Commissioner Jennings.
Here.
Commissioner Shirley.
Here.
Please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So it looks like everything falls under administration today.
Mayor, at this point in time, I would request that we move into executive session for 10 minutes to discuss with legal counsel matters subject to attorney-client privilege for the reason that public discussion of those matters would waive the privilege and adversely affect the city's interest in the matters, and reconvene here at 12:40 p.m.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we recess into executive session until 12:40. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We're in executive session and we'll be back to finish out the rest of the agenda in about 10 minutes. Back in open meeting after executive session. We'll move on to item 3.2.
Resolution number 116870, authorizing an agreement for economic development services with the Salina Area Chamber of Commerce.
Mr. Gage.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. We have before you an agreement for economic development services. The city has, to the best that we know with our records, has contracted with the Chamber for this service since about 1955. The last two revisions have been in 2005 and 2008. The current agreement is for 1 year, and what we think it does is it includes those priorities for economic development that you've communicated to us in open sessions, and we believe represents the best interest of enhancing our service effectiveness in the community. The basic format's a little different, a little bit longer, a few more words than what you've seen historically. The amount is a little different as well. It's been reduced in this year, the current year, 2011. The amount allocated was $195,700. It's been reduced to $175,100, which that's excluding the Project Open allocation. The reduction is a result of guidance provided of reducing from the 15% from the 2010 level. The 2010 level was higher than the 2011 level, so that you recall that it was about $206,000. So that's 15% from the $206,000 level in 2010. The proposed agreement terms focus a lot more on a lot of data tracking and reporting, service expectations and outcomes. Some of the primary aspects of this include again, it's a 1 year agreement rather than multiple years. There's an anticipation that after this year, that if you're satisfied, that you may go back to a multiple year agreement, say 2 or 3 year agreement. We kind of expanded the recitals. That's really just a little historical information. We did include a standard of excellence as far as our expectations. This is really something we need to think about with some other agreements that we have. I think it sends a good message as to what the city expects when you represent the city generally. We also included standard for representation, kind of the same type of thing. The fee is a lot different. Historically, we've had that total amount, which again last year was $195,700, and that's been paid in equal, I believe, quarterly installments. And based on guidance this year, or for 2012, the fee would be $85,000 as a base. That would be paid in equal installments, and the remaining $90,100 would be apportioned as included in the agreement to 5 performance objectives. And what would happen is when those objectives are considered completed, the Chamber would inform us of that. We would then need to respond that we believe that they've been completed to city's satisfaction, and then at that time, when the next regular payment time frame occurs, the dollars associated with that particular objective would be included in that payment. So basically, when it's done, it gets paid at that point in time. And again, there's a full anticipation that they will be able to complete all of those and be able to get paid all of that. But if not, then those wouldn't be paid. And then we include a separate funding allocation for Project Open, the amount of $25,000 for this year. Let's see. The chamber officials have reviewed the terms of the agreement, find them satisfactory. Again, we do believe this does a better job of trying to communicate, I believe, the interest and expectations of the city. It has been reviewed by our legal counsel as well. From the fiscal note perspective, again, since it's a slight reduction from last year, the fiscal impact is slightly less, or from this year, I should say. It's almost last year. We're almost into the next year, but the impact is actually less than this year by a small amount. We do believe it meets or conforms with the strategic plan because it relates directly to providing the highest quality of services. I think that makes sense, and that's where it relates to. We have three alternatives for you. One is to approve the resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into this agreement for economic development services with the Salina Area Chamber of Commerce. Two is similar, but we put as modified. We always want to give you the opportunity, if there's some aspect you still would like to modify, that you have that ability to do that. So we always put that in as a kind of a set alternative. Obviously, three is do not approve the resolution at this time, which in essence means we would not be entering into an agreement for these services in the next year. Staff recommends one, but certainly happy to answer questions and discuss any possible modifications you might have.
Any questions for staff? Thanks. Is there any public comment? Any debate or discussion amongst the commission? Bring it to the commission for action.
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve this resolution 116870, authorizing the mayor to enter into the agreement for economic development services with Salina Area Chamber of Commerce.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the commission approve resolution 11-6870. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0.
Item 3.3, resolution number 116871, approving the revised guidelines for the 2012 Project Open Entrepreneur Business Development Program.
Mr. Gage.
Mayor and Commissioners, according to the Center for Applied Economics at the University of Kansas, from 1990 through 2004, 57% of new jobs were from startup businesses versus only about 3.2% from companies moving into the state. That's a pretty enlightening number when you think about where jobs come from and where they grow from. This is one of the reasons that in January of 2008, the City Commission approved revisions to the Economic Development Agreement to provide $45,000 in seed money for what is now, or what was called Project Open. Project Open, as you are aware of, is an entrepreneurial business development program. It's administered by the Chamber of Commerce with assistance from Salina Downtown, Inc. And we just referenced that in the ED agreement with the funding. What we're talking about today is basically the guidelines for that program. When we look at this, one of the key aspects of this is it does leverage a partnership from other entities, including the North Central Regional Planning Commission, Startup Kansas program, e-community program. And when some of the impacts this has had, they've had approximately 200 businesses and individuals completing the intake process. And just some quick highlights to that. 75 have enrolled in entrepreneurial training. There's been assistance provided to 56 existing businesses. They've had 38 completed business plans, 32 new business startups that receive some level of support services, with 19 receiving development funding, 54 new jobs created, and the total public and private business investment, when you include all Project Open funds, all other leveraged funds, private investment from those that are applying for funds, and their bank loans all together, is just under $600,000. So when you put everybody's resources together, that's the kind of investment you've seen in this. So, and out of that almost 600,000 Project Opens, what's come from the Project Open program, not necessarily directly city funds. That was limited at 45,000, but that has been 165,000, and that includes funds that the city funds have leveraged, that 165. So it's been pretty good leveraging, quite honestly. when we had talked about this during the budget discussions, one of the things that came about was it seemed as if the commission was pretty happy overall with the program, with one exception. And one thing that you wanted us to look at and have the Chamber of Commerce look at is this idea that once you go through intake, there's basically an assessment of your business plan and so forth, and there's recommendation for certain training and education. And historically, the applicant had to complete that in order to then apply for Project Open funds. And the thinking is that if you were not a startup, but a business, someone who's been in business who really probably already retains a lot of that knowledge and has some experience, it wouldn't make sense to require them to utilize that education and training. Certainly out there and optional, but not required. So really the basic change you see in all this is in these guidelines that we're asking you to approve is that if you're not considered a startup, you go through the intake. They give the recommended training and education that they'd like to see you take advantage of, but you do not have to complete that in order to apply for the business development funds, what we call SEDIC, or Salina Economic Development Incentive Council sales tax portion of that. You do not have to complete that training to do that. So you can still apply for those funds without completing the training. We do also highlight, though, and emphasize in there that it's good to do that training because basically the more prepared you can be, the better your odds are when you go through that review. But you don't have to. And that was the main key thing, and so that we can really expand the use of this with regards to the businesses, and they can respond to it, and hopefully we can really grow some more jobs out of it and not slow people down who are really ready to get rolling on maybe a new idea, but they already have business experience. So that's the main change here. We already talked about, again, this is the guidelines only. The funding was included in the last action. And so there's really the fiscal impact I've restated, but in essence, that's already been handled. Again, we think this deals with the highest quality services that is really emphasized by the comp plan, and basically the same three options as before: to adopt a resolution which adopts the guidelines, to possibly modify those guidelines, or do not adopt the resolution and do not adopt the guidelines at this time. Be happy to answer any questions. I know we do have representatives from the Chamber of Commerce and Salina Downtown Inc. that may be able to answer questions that I can't.
Questions for staff? Any questions for Mr. Lava or Ms. Klima? Any public comment? Bring it back to the commission for action.
Mayor, I'd move that we approve Resolution 11-6871 and make an action approving the revised guidelines for the 2012 Project Open Entrepreneurial Business Development Program.
Second. It's been moved and seconded that the commission adopt Resolution 11-6871. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0.
Item 3.4, authorize an operating supplement for the Salina Municipal Golf Course.
Mr. Louthan.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. You have an item before you here requesting an operational supplement for the golf course. A little bit of background about the facility. 18-hole facility, 6-hole par 3, which is somewhat unique that we have there that other facilities don't have. Full chipping green, full putting green, etc. A little bit of background. During the last 5 years, we've seen golf play decrease by about 29%. We have seen revenues decline in that same period roughly 17%. In an effort to continue to meet the 100% cost recovery, we were able to reduce expenditures by around 12%. Moving forward, in 2012, we have basically a two-pronged approach. Number one, we want to grow revenues and try to build and establish that baseline, which we've done partially through the new fee structure. We believe that will be a nice step forward. The second piece to that is we want to, again, reduce expenditures further, which we've identified some different steps, such as bundling of services, freezing different full-time positions, and the like. So we looking at it from both ends of the spectrum, both the revenue side and the expenditure side, and that's kind of how we're addressing our goal to try to meet the 100% cost recovery we've set forth. There is an immediate need for $45,000 to cover that, the subsidy this year. We have identified the Special Parks and Recreation Fund, which receives basically a third of the alcohol tax proceeds, and it does have an adequate balance to cover it. Those funds are statutorily designated for recreation program or facility use, so we believe that would be a good use of them for this particular item. We have in front of you three basic options: approve the supplemental funding request of $45,000, deny the supplemental funding request, or provide another option or give further direction on what you may want us to do. I'd be happy to try to answer any questions you may have, or Steve is also here from the golf course, and he can probably help us as well.
Have you all come up with a marketing plan to try and make sure those packages are known and get those sold and get fees coming up
We do.
increased?
We've talked about different ways we're going to try to push it out there, from both social media, through print media, through radio and TV, and as well as some direct mail efforts as well, where we've identified some folks that we believe would be interested in the package and maybe have an interest in making sure that they have that in their hands. So we've talked about our different ways to do that, and some things have already started, just started.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Thanks. Any other questions?
I just have a comment that I don't golf, but a lot of my friends do, and I think you need to target some seniors. I think you lost a lot of seniors.
Probably a fair comment. We have tried to, I went and spoke at their year-end, I guess, gala that they had, and was able to talk to a lot of them, just get some feedback on what they wanted to see. And that's kind of what we tried to do, is engage the folks who are out there using it, say, hey, what can we put out there that will, make you want to come back or make you want to participate more. So excellent point, and we're certainly trying to go down that road.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Is there any public comment on this? Any discussion or debate amongst the commission? Seeing none, I'll bring it back for action.
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the operating supplement of $45,000 for the Salina Municipal Golf Course.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the commission authorize an operating supplement for the golf course in the amount of $45,000. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0.
Mayor, at this point in time, I request that we move into executive session for 20 minutes to discuss with legal counsel matters subject to the attorney-client privilege, for reason that public discussion of those matters would waive the privilege and adversely affect the city's interest in those matters, reconvening here at 1:25 p.m.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we recess into executive session. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. Anticipate any action.
We do not.
Okay, we're in executive session.